Micheal Pope.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey. I am your host, Micheal Pope, and it is a privilege and an honor to be here with you this morning. I am exhausted. If you see me, which I know you do. I didn't get back from something really wonderful I'm going to tell you about in a few minutes until almost midnight. And then once I got home, I had to putz and reconnect, touch all my stuff and clean a little bit. And my house wasn't dirty, but that's just who I am. So welcome to Life is a Sacred Journey. We are a platform of people who believe that care partnering is one of the most incredible things that an individual gets the opportunity to participate in. We know that it has its challenges. We know that it can be difficult, but we also know that there is joy in the relationship. There is growing in the relationship. There is engagement. And more importantly, more than anything else, it's love. And it can show how two people can, or a group of people, because sometimes it's a group of people supporting each other, can come together and create an environment of love. Our candles are lit this morning, again, for all of the care partners out there. We hope that these candles give you hope and help you to feel as if you are seen. So the light in the darkness. That you are seen. And I just pray and meditate on your life and how difficult it can be from time to time to be a care partner. So the candles are lit to lift you up, as well as lifting up the tragedies of the world and where humanity is crashing into itself and into each other in a way that causes harm, oppression, and pain for all of us. And because what affects one of us as a human being, there really is a chain reaction to how it impacts us all. So good morning and welcome to Life is a Sacred Journey. Again, that is our platform. Some weeks we have authors and people who are advocates in the care partnering world. We even have people that come that work with community-based organizations and work in the community. And they come to tell us how we can all partner together to work not only around aging but to make the world a better place. So thank you so much for being here. I am glad that I have my feet back on the ground, and I want to thank Delta Airlines for everything that they did to make my trips, because it was I went from Oakland to LAX, from LAX to Atlanta, from Atlanta to Asheville, and then from Asheville to Atlanta, from Atlanta to Salt Lake City to Oakland, coming back. So I got to know many of you very, very well. So thank you so much for getting me safely home, and I'll see you next time. So welcome again to Life is a Sacred Journey. I want to ponder something with you this morning that became very real for me prior to me leaving for the trip and the conference or workshop or connectional community that I participated in the last 3 days. I'll tell you more about that. But I've been pondering ageism. And I guess it's because I'm getting older and people say things to me like, oh, you look good for your age. Whatever that means. Everyone's always asking me when I'm going to retire. Like my brain is ready to shut down. And I'm actually, I was actually said to somebody, well, do you think that I should retire? Do you think that I'm not effective anymore? I mean, it wasn't anybody that I work with, but it was like another person asking me that question. And I realized I don't think people understand how that impacts an individual when you say things like that to them. So I look good for my age because someone my age shouldn't look good? Or are you just saying that I look good for the fact that, like today, I don't look so good because I got bags under my eyes and for having only 1 hour or 2 hours of sleep? But what does it mean when we say things like that? Write in the chat, what you feel about ageism. And if you are someone that's over the age of 60 or even whatever age, because ageism isn't just about aging. We do it to young people too. We go, oh, you're too young to know about that. Well, maybe not. maybe not. I have some powerful young people. In the last 3 days, I've realized how much I have leaned on them in my absence, that I could be at this wonderful gathering of people. They are all some of them 40 years younger than me, but they have so much to offer, and they invigorate me, and they energize me, and they get things done, yes, in a different way, but it doesn't demean their ability or what they bring to the situation. So ageism is across the spectrum of the humanity and the life cycle. So write in the chat, have you ever been affected by ageism? And how did it make you feel when that happened? Ageism is something that we really need to talk about, just like all the other isms. But today we're going to focus there. And I wanted to read to you, we have dear friends that come to Life is a Sacred Journey, and they talk about ageism with us all the time. And so we get to hear those conversations and understand what it is. So Ageism Day, by the way, is October 7th, and it's a really important time of day. So what we talk about is in ageism is the interpersonal relationships that exist between us, the culture, individuals, one-to-one, group, work environment, and also, how we navigate the spaces where we say we want diversity. Diversity isn't just a skin color construct. It's about age as well. And it's about how do we all work together and bring all those rich voices in so that we can hear them and create change. The other is self-directed ageism. And that's when you yourself have been so inundated by the messages that you say, oh, I'm too old to do that. No, I'm going to let somebody else do that. Oh, I'm too old to be a part of that or this. And it's because of the adoption of a culture construct that says you are, and has been telling you that all the time. I know I'm going to get in trouble, but I'm not going to say the name of, I did in a presentation, but I won't do it here. Last Christmas season, there was a large credit card company that had a commercial where they said, would you rather spend your Christmas here with grandma? And grandma is making, it looks like sandwiches for the kids. The kids are sitting at a counter and grandma hands the sandwiches. And then they say, or here, and they're in a tropical place. But the thing that happens between grandma at the counter and the tropical place is grandma disappears from the screen. So I kept thinking, well, maybe she's offline somewhere. But then I thought the message of that is grandma's not fun. She's not even fun enough for us to take her with us and to show the family as a whole. I don't know if they did that on purpose. I'm not going to say they did, and I don't believe they did. But that's the problem, is that we don't think, we don't look at something and say, okay, what is the impact on the culture if we say that grandma is no fun? Now that I'm a grandma, I think I'm a whole lot of fun. And I know I'm gonna be a whole lot of fun. So I defy that commercial, and it's very interesting. I think I haven't been able to find it. So maybe somebody realized that that's a bad message to give. Not only, and you use children in it, so what you're saying to the children is that it's better to go to a tropical place than it is to engage with your family, your grandmother, who might have such wisdom and wants to love you. So it's interesting how the culture sets that up. Institutional ageism, and social norms practices unfair to young adults, older adults, just unfair because it's done based on age. That age is one of the cornerstones or stones of how the decision is made or the system is built. So age is, in that way, institutional ageism. We talk about our president, and this is not a political statement. I'm not making a political statement, so please don't take me there in your mind. What I'm saying is, if the performance is not good, it's the performance is not good. Now, if the individual is going to be diagnosed with dementia, mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, or any of those things, get it, understand it. But to imply it without a diagnosis just because maybe the person is confused for a moment or something happens, that's ageism. I've seen little people get confused when they're in new environments and they don't understand what's going on. Now, I'm not saying that all the propaganda that's out there is not true or is true or whatever. I'm not speaking to it from that perspective. I'm speaking to it from the perspective that we turn it into an age thing and make it that every single individual who is of that same age does not have capability to do anything or to engage and lead the way. So that's structural, institutional ageism. People are harassed sometimes. We find now that we have, and scamming, our colleagues that came on the show and talked about scams and seniors and how those scams, again, that's a harassment where they're being attacked for their funds, their property, and things like that. Exclusion from activities where you don't look at the fact that there may be things that, I said this over the last 3 days, if you really are doing a presentation where you want it to be all-inclusive, to think that a 12 size font is going to do it for folks is really short-sighted, and we need to think bigger than that. I have cataracts now that aren't big enough, and I'm waiting to get my scheduled surgery. Well, things are different, and they cause a little bit of I can't see things without glasses and my contacts and all that foolishness. But at the end of the day, to assume that everybody can read a 12 font, to assume that everybody can hear and the sounds in the spaces aren't modulated so that they can hear them with headsets or hearing aids, that to me is where we go when we talk about ageism and when we talk about exclusion, where we glorify our youth and we don't glorify the journey of life. And I'm really one of those people because I've been on a life journey. When I started to realize that life was a journey, why this is called Life is a Sacred Journey and sacred, I realized that every moment of my life, every phase of my life, every season of my life has not only taught me things, but I've become a better person in those seasons because of the previous season. I'm just saying. Denied opportunities where somebody is looking for a job or wants to do still wants to be engaged, and people say, oh, no, it's time for you to sit down and retire. No, we don't want to hire you for a full-time position because you're 70 something years old. Oh, the life expectancy insurance quote thing, actuary says that 78 is the average life expectancy. Ooh, we don't want to hire them. They're close to dying. Well, who are you to say that they're going to die? They might outlive the very person that's interviewing them. So exclusion and from all of these things is so important. And denied opportunities, hiring biases. So ageism is that place where we all kind of seem to go, whether it's on the end of youth or if it's on the end of on the spectrum of life. We pick what we think is valued, and it's not our fault. It's not anybody's fault. I get magazines. I love my magazines. They come because I love fashion magazines, and I have to say I'm so excited. Recently, I've been seeing people different body shapes and older, beautiful, oh my gosh, magnificently wonderful women. And I can't wait because they have that salt and pepper hair and mine's salt and pepper on this, well, whatever, on one side and not on the other. And I still got, coloring in the top of it. So I'm waiting for that day where it is this beautiful salt and pepper color. I saw a lady on the flight home last night, and it was the most gorgeous beautiful hair, and she was magnificently beautiful. And so I'm excited that we're living into a time when we're saying, acknowledge everybody's beauty, acknowledge everybody's opportunity to share in the human connection. And ageism is a place where we can, I think, dig deeper. I think we need to have a deeper conversation about ageism, because I also think little people, right now, ageism is spoke about in many ways about in my phase of life. But I also think that little people, ageism, we think they have nothing to teach us. And we smile at them and and we do that, but yet we're not really listening to their words of wisdom. And we have a lot to learn from them, particularly when it comes to acceptance. It is grown-up behavior. I just want to tell you this, and I know some people aren't going to like it, so please don't get mad at me. And when Life is a Sacred Journey is a platform where we speak the truth as much as we can. And the one thing that I know is that a child does not become a bully unless they see it in front of them. So let's just say an innocent baby is born and they're happy, they're engaged, they know, oh man, life is fabulous. And then they go to kindergarten. So what's that? 5 years old. And something shifts then. And it's the exposure to other individuals who have not maybe had that same opportunity of love, care, affection, acceptance, being told that they can soar higher than the stars. And that's when things start to shift, where and again, in the human cycle of life, things shift all the time. But it's when we interject our societal negativities that then this little person begins to morph into these little people that now much younger, 8, 9, 10, that are becoming heinous bulliers. So we have to really think about and have deeper conversations about how we got this way. And so so that's my sort of pondering on ageism. So hit the share button if you haven't done so already. Invite somebody else to join us in our next 15 minutes, and then they can always go back if you want to share it after. But you are here for Micheal Pope Pondering on Life is a Sacred Journey, and thank you so much for joining us. This last 3 days have been engaged in what I consider an honor. I was asked by a dear colleague from my faith-based life to be a part of a dementia network of lay people and faith-based people within the United Methodist denomination. And for 3 days, we spoke about dementia. We learned from each other. Majority of the folks that were present were from North Carolina, Mississippi, sort of around that sort of area, in that geography. My geography is really bad. That is a class that I failed. And we began to learn about respite programs that are being opened and in partnership with the faith-based community using the property. But what I loved about them is that they were programs that were not programs. In this context, they were called ministries, but I'm going to call them both interchange because we have not just a faith-based audience, we have a secular audience. So they were respite programs, friends, that weren't like Alzheimer's services of the East Bay. They were social daycare programs. And what they had done in all of these little nooks and crannies and places, rural areas and urban, is taken spaces in churches where they're huge multi-purpose rooms and turned them into places of connection, love, and activity. I was so delighted to hear that they knew about Teepa Snow, someone who has been a major part of my learning since I came to Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay 26 years ago. Shout out to dear colleague Teepa Snow, but also that they had a volunteer staff, I'm going to call them staff, volunteer staff that were coming together and really providing the services. So the cost of it was not something that we incur here. So it was really exciting to see these programs and to be engaged in conversation about what can we do, what can we reimagine. And what I did learn is that the state of California, we're very, 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 we have a lot of regulations from the Department of Health, the Department of Aging, the Department of Public Health, all of it. A lot of regulations that sometimes make it hard to do some of the things that we may see that need to be done. And if we do them, there's a regulatory sort of systematic process that we have to go through to bring them into the programs. Whereas these were programs where that wasn't happening, and that instead the regulations were being formulated and changed to make it easier for these respite programs to open and be engaged in the community. So I just want to say shout out to everybody that put it together, and all my colleagues and friends that were there. I learned so much. Between now and the end of the year and next year, I will be sharing some of my learnings. I just haven't had a chance to process everything, but I wanted to tell you there's a movement afoot that faith-based communities and community-based organizations and the community, the people are coming together and creating things, and people aren't afraid because it's a faith-based. We know how to not beat you over the head with the Bible. We know how to partner with you. And so I loved it. So faith-based communities and nonprofits and legislative bodies and community leaders and stakeholders all working together to create something, and then crashing the boulders that get in the way of progress and providing the service. Again, you are at Life is a Sacred Journey. Hit that share button, let somebody else know, invite them to join us for our last couple of minutes of conversation. On the way back, I began to, well, actually, no. This happened the second day that I was at the conference. I began to think about my friend, Richard Taylor. And I don't know if some of you, this was back when we were a radio podcast, or I don't know if we call it a podcast when it's radio. I don't know. Felicia knows. I don't know. But there was a professor, his name was Richard Taylor. And Richard Taylor wrote a book called Alzheimer's from the Inside Out. This is the book, okay? And he was a professor at a college, and I can't remember the college, but it'll come back to me. And at the year that he was diagnosed was the same year that he was given the award of Professor of the Year. He in his Alzheimer's, traveled the world to share the experience that he was experiencing from the inside out with this diagnosis. And one of the chapters was about the chase for yesterday. And I loved it. And I loved that he titled it that. The chase for yesterday is something where we say, or we did say when the pandemic was happening, we can't wait to get back to normal. We can't wait for this. We can't wait for that. The chase for yesterday is also what we're looking for as care partners when we're with somebody who has a diagnosis of dementia, whether it be mild cognitive impairment, Alzheimer's, Lewy, whatever it may be. We're chasing what we knew. We're chasing that person that we met, fell in love with, fell in like with, because that's who we know. That's who their essence of the yesterday is what we resonated with from the very beginning. And Alzheimer's says, stop chasing the yesterday and meet me where I am now. Robert Taylor talks about that, and he says, I am an empty vessel into which I throw a hand and a half full of pills twice a day, and I desperately want pills to reconstruct me. So even he was chasing the yesterday, because the sense of loss, the sense of losing the snapshots of one's identity, horrific. And the hope that he was putting in those pills, the hope that he was putting in science, the hope, right? And what respite programs and the Alzheimer's Association and Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay and UCSF and the UC Davis Diagnostic Center and all the advocates across the world, in England, where they created the Alzheimer's village, where it actually the place where the people live look like a village. They walk out onto a hallway that looks like actually a street. I'm going there. 2024, I'm going to visit in person. Or when I went to Belgium and they've thought about, okay, how many people do we have that are aging in place based on our census and numbers, and where do we need to put our pharmacies? Where do we need to put our assisted living buildings so that they are in the community and that people remain in the community in which they invested, lived, thrived, laughed, cried? The chase for yesterday is the chase for acceptance. The chase for yesterday is the chase for, I'm still here. And so stabilizing myself and getting myself as close to what is your reality of me is what I'm chasing. Because sometimes we make it hard. I remember early on when I came here to Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay, I used to say to people, remember I said, or do you remember this? And you know, now I don't do that. I catch myself. I mean, it's an automatic statement reaction, and I catch myself, and I'm better at it. But those kinds of things where we're drawing people into the yesterday. So I know Robert Taylor has passed away, and I just want to say I thank him for, in his stages of Alzheimer's until he could no longer travel, he traveled across this country and the world and said, even though I have Alzheimer's, I am going to live it inside out. I'm going to do my best to educate you, to make you aware that I am a person. And I'm not a person that because you know my diagnosis, and when I'm finished speaking, that you should go, oh, he did so well. Oh my gosh, he has dementia. How could he have done that? No, that you applaud him for who he is, as if you didn't know that the disease existed. Again, I told you that Richard Taylor received an award of being the best professor of the year when he was already experiencing some dementia that was not, and then he got diagnosed after the award was given to him. So if you're out there and you're a professional working, or even a care partner, paid, unpaid care partner, and you want to get a different perspective about Alzheimer's from that perspective of the care receiver, I really recommend this book, Alzheimer's from the Inside Out by Richard Taylor. And you will find a collection of illuminating essays from Richard Taylor, where firsthand experience of somebody who survived and thrived with Alzheimer's, and then took that message out into the world so that people could learn from his life experience. So we thank you, Richard Taylor, for teaching us that Alzheimer's is something that can be lived. Dementia can be lived from the inside out. And those of us on the outside need to walk beside and learn from. So thank you so much for that. Before we end our time today, I want to first of all say to all of you, thank you for coming to Life is a Sacred Journey, and for sharing letting people know, hit the share button, go and subscribe on YouTube and all the different places. But more importantly, I thank you for taking the messaging out and making it, telling one person so another person can go forward and tell another person, and we can share that there is connection in this world of Alzheimer's, and that there are people out there that care. Alzheimer's, dementia, there are people out there that care and want to advocate for the best possible life space for anyone who is a care partner or a care receiver living with this disease. All right, I'm going to do 2 ifs. For those of you that are regulars here at Life is a Sacred Journey, I love this book called If, Questions for the Game of Life by Evelyn McFarland and James Saywell. There you go. And because you got to give credit where credit is due. All right, let's find something. I don't think I've ever asked this one, so this is a good one. Maybe I'll only have time for one, but we'll get through it as quick as we can. If you could have been born the child of a famous person no longer living, who would you choose? If you could be born the child of a famous person no longer living, who would you choose? Wow. Let me think about that. Write your answers in the chat if you're willing to share. I'm trying to think of who that would be. I love my mama and papa, so but if the question, it would be Maya Angelou for the dignity and all the wisdom. Yeah. So that's who it would be for me. Who would it be for you? Okay. One more if, and then we'll close out. If you were to invent an award to give to one commercial company, which one would you award and for what? If you were to invent an award to give to one commercial company, which one would you award and for what? Okay. I'm going to tell you right now who it would be for me, and it's only because I just had this experience. It would be Wheelworks. Wheelworks in my neck of the woods. My car was there. I named my cars. My car is named Snowflake. And I went there because I just kept hearing this noise. They found one noise, and then I drove away and I found another noise, and I brought it back. I took the car back to them 2 times, and they never, ever, ever, ever told me that I didn't know what I was talking about. They finally said, if you come early one morning, we'll go on a test drive with you and we'll listen for that noise with you. And they did. My car has since been repaired. And so Wheelworks, I can't say where, but Wheelworks is a wonderful place where I went. So that would be my response to that question. All right, friends. I want to thank you for always coming to Life is a Sacred Journey and bringing your best self, your comments, and all of that. I want to stop for a minute, as we always do here at Life is a Sacred Journey, and speak to those of you that are living with grief and pain to the point where you think that your life has no value and that you've thought, attempted suicide. And as you know, it's near and dear to me. Because most recently, somebody near and dear to me committed suicide. So there is hope. And I know I'm not in your situation. Nobody is in your situation. But if you pick up a phone or you grab a cell phone, not steal it, but ask somebody to call it for you. You can text or call 988. That's the suicide hotline number. And there are people on the other end that will guide you, get you resources, and be a listening, active ear to take you to the other side of this moment, this time, this period in your life. You are important. And yes, the world would know that you were gone, even though you think at this particular dark moment that nobody cares. There are people that care. We care here at Life is a Sacred Journey, and that's why every Friday we say and lift up the suicide hotline. I also want to lift up all the people on the other end of the line that are right now in the World Health Organization just announced yesterday that isolation and depression, but studied isolation is the number one thing we got going on. And we're crashing into each other. Somebody hit my car a week or so ago. No note, no nothing, because we're just crashing into each other with no regard to the impact of that crashing. And so 988. And if you are a nonprofit, a faith-based, or you're affiliated in any way, please share this number, 988. We can't be everything to everybody. And the statistics show that a lot of the suicides happen in the twilight of the morning or very late at night, when many of these organizations and faith-based communities, even if a pastor is called 24/7 or whatever your denominational faith is. But again, many are not skilled to move someone from a crisis moment into a moment where they're availing of resources. So 988. Also here in the state of California, there is a youth crisis line. The number is 1-800-843-5200. It's 24/7 crisis counseling. It's anonymous, it's safe, it's confidential, and they will connect you to services, and it's for youth and families. So if you're an emancipated youth, a foster youth that has aged out of the foster care system, they want to connect with you and make sure that you are safe and that you have the resources that you need, and also teach you how to advocate for yourself. 1-800-843-5200. California Youth Crisis Line, 24/7 crisis counseling, anonymous, safe, confidential, and they will connect you to services. 988, national hotline for suicide, if you want to reach out and talk to somebody there. All right, take a deep breath. It's always a pleasure for me to show up here on Fridays. I almost called Felicia last night and said, would you just put up a past podcast because I'm exhausted. But then in the morning, after my couple of hours of sleep, because it was morning when I got home, I was invigorated by the fact that I have been with people, and I wanted to share with you that there is a movement afoot to help you care partners out there. And we're going to be talking more about it as time goes on. And I'm going to bring some authors. One was a care partner to his wife, and we'll bring him on. And then another person is a developer of these small respite programs where faith-based community and the public at large partner together to bring the service to the communities where these churches exist. So I don't know what the weather's going to be like this weekend, but right now the sun is out where I am. Wherever you are, I pray that the sun is out for you because you're living from the inside out. Thank you, Richard Taylor, for that. Because when you live from the inside out, you're open to the possibility that somebody has something to give you and that you have something to give somebody else. You are open to the fact that somebody who's living with memory loss or cognition decline has something to give you that you couldn't get from anybody else. You're open to the fact that somebody who is living their life has a right to experience it to the fullest, and that ageism has no place in the dialogue or the conversation. Same thing. Just thought about what I just said. Dialogue and conversation, kind of the same thing, but depending on where you sit. So friends, have a wonderful weekend. Do something fun for yourself and do something for somebody else, because I'm gonna tell you, one of the greatest pleasures of life is when you do something for somebody else. And when you do it in secret, but you can see the impact of it, that's even better. So go out, pet a cat, pet a dog, hug a tree, and you know what? Hug yourself. Hug yourself. And then take a deep breath and get back on the train of life And yes, it has its twisty, turny roads, but it is the most glorious and wonderful thing that we get an opportunity to live this life and to engage with each other. I'll see you next Friday, 8 a.m. here at Life is a Sacred Journey. Please share with other people. We want to build our listener and folks that are checking us out. So we want to create a movement around Life is a Sacred Journey, and we want you to be a part of it. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Peace.